What's going on, everybody? I'm Jiffy Nano and welcome to another Destiny 2 video. Today I have a super versatile PvE Arc 3.0 Hunter build that'll let you have an ability to throw out whenever you need it. So let's not waste any more time and get right into this subclass. We're using Gathering Storm. It's a really good super, deals a lot of damage, and it's easy to use. It's a set and forget super. You can deal damage with your weapons and the super at the same time. Gambler's Dodge, so you can easily get your melee back, and Combination Blow, which increases your melee damage every time you get a kill, and gives you your dodge back on kills as well. These two have always been really good for chaining melee kills together. Our aspects are Flow State and Lethal Current. Flow State makes you amplified when you defeat jolted targets, and being amplified increases your dodge recharge, makes you more resilient while dodging, and increases your reload speed. Lethal Current increases melee lunge, causes your melee to jolt targets, and creates a damaging aftershock after dodging. These aspects flow into each other really well, jolting enemies with your melee to become amplified, and that aftershock after dodging does really good damage along with stacking with Combination Blow. Onto Fragments. Spark of Resistance gives you damage resistance while surrounded by enemies. Practically through damage reduction, this is easily one of the best fragments of Arc 3.0. Spark of Shock, our grenades jolt targets. This will be important a little later. Spark of Discharge, Arc Weapon Final Blows have a chance to create Ionic Trace, and Spark of Ions, defeating jolted targets creates an Ionic Trace. These Ionic Traces along with our Elemental Wells will greatly increase our ability regen, so we should have a melee or grenade at our disposal most of the time. Speaking of grenades, we are using the Arc Bolt grenade paired with the Lucky Raspberry exotic chest armor. The Lucky Raspberry is a pretty old exotic, increasing the effectiveness of our Arc Bolt's chain lightning, giving it a chance to reset your grenade cooldown when it deals damage, and guaranteeing a reset when you get a full chain. Not as flashy as some of the new exotics, but in enemy dense fights you can throw 3 or 4 grenades in a row, damaging and jolting a whole lot of targets really quickly. When I was originally crafting this build, I was trying to use the Shinobu's Vow and skip grenades, but I was disappointed in the skip grenades damage and tracking, since the nade drones seem to go after a single target, and the Shinobu's traits that's supposed to increase the skip's drone count from 4 to 5 doesn't seem to be working. Arc bolts with the Lucky Raspberry, however, will always hit multiple targets within range of its scans, which means we can jolt more targets more reliably. Armor stat wise, we focus on resilience for the damage reduction, mobility for our dodge, and discipline for the extra grenade cooldown. With how Combination Blow and Gambler's Dodge work together, you don't really need strength, but I like to have my dodge as often as possible, so I can utilize Lethal Current and the Bomber mods on our cloak more often. And even though the Lucky Raspberry can reset our grenade cooldown, the higher discipline and Bomber mods help when we miss or get unlucky. In the gameplay, I had Tier 10 Resilience, Tier 7 Mobility, and Tier 6 Discipline, and I'm still working on my armor collection, so you'll likely have better stats. For mods, I suggest Ashes to Assets. We are spamming grenades, so the more grenade kills means more supers. Explosive Wallmaker, Elemental Ordnance, Well of Life, and of course Font of Might. This lets us create solar and arc wells to give us our ability energy back across the board. Well of Life will heal us every time we pick up a solar well, and Font of Might will give us a damage boost for 10 seconds every time we pick up an arc well. I was using Powerful Friends and an Arc Resistance mod on the Raspberry for the 20 mobility boost, but this could easily be replaced if you have better armor stats. And as I mentioned before, double Bomber mods on the cloak to get that nade back if you miss or get unlucky. The weapon loadout here is fairly important, the most important being our energy weapon, which I swap back and forth with the Brigand's Law and the Tarnished Metal, both with Volt Shot. Reloading shortly after a kill overcharges the weapon, making the next shot apply Jolt to the target. In my opinion, Jolt is the strongest of the new status effects in the 3.0 subclasses, beating out Volatile mostly because you can only get Volatile rounds through a subclass fragment. Jolted targets create Chain Lightning when damaged that damages them and enemies around them. Note I didn't say nearby enemies because Jolt Chain Lightning reaches way farther than you would think, and with it attached to a weapon perk Volt Shot, you can easily jolt targets at any range on any subclass, not just Arc, to cause that Chain Lightning. The biggest factor that makes Jolt so good is that it does extra damage to both the jolted target and the enemies around them. So Volt Shot could be considered a DPS perk and an ad clear perk, whereas Incandescent and Headstone are only really good for ad clear or utility. Normally I will use a Wither Horde with this because of how it interacts with Jolt. The Wither Horde will tick its damage over time, which causes the Jolt effect to tick its damage over time and chain the lightning, doubling up on damage over time, letting you focus on other things. So all you have to do is set up a Volt Shot or grenade to jolt a major or champion and then get a Wither Horde shot on them and watch them clear the room of ads for you. The only time I've really had to swap off the Wither Horde is to deal with both barriers and unstoppable jams, since there's no unstoppable heavy weapons for this season's artifact. Speaking of heavy weapons, we know that linears are on the top of the list, and the most popular currently is probably the Taipan with firing line, since it's extremely easy to get. But keep an eye out for the new seasonal linear Cell Spike Pitch Glass. This can roll with Volt Shot, giving it the unique ability to be a linear fusion that can both ad clear and DPS a boss. This makes it a really good pick for solo content, so pay attention to the rolls on those. This build is likely what I'll try to bring into GMs and master content for Arc. It's extremely versatile, and Jolt is an absolute monster at clearing crowds of ads, and the fact that it's not solely dedicated to one ability means you have options to take care of whatever situation is in front of you. I currently don't have a name for this build yet, but I am kind of leaning towards Lucky Lightning. So if you like this build, the dim link will be in the description. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, liking, and hitting the bell. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments and check out my live streams. And if you want to support me and my content, consider checking out my Patreon, Discord, or becoming a member here on this channel. Until next time, have a good one.